But one of the people that really helped me through that process was Sanyika Calloway Boyce, and she is an incredible, incredible person. She worked as one of the faculty, the key faculty on my Impact Action team. We were able to put together a simple message to help save lives of teenagers that are at risk for suicide. And within a 30-day period, members of the team, including Odin, sitting right here, who was on the Impact Action team. Are there other Impact Action team members that are sitting here? There is, Michael in the back, right there, was on that Impact Action team. And you'll meet some others. Felicia Slattery will be here a little bit later. She was on the Impact Action team. And those incredible individuals were able to get that simple message out to 19.1 million people in 30 days. 30 days. That included building websites, doing social media, getting on radio, getting on television, and getting in the front page of the largest French newspaper in Canada, getting that message out to tons and tons of people. Part of that was me getting on television in a major market, Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a pretty decent market, you'd think, for television. How many people here would like to be on a great news show in Philadelphia? Got something to say? Yeah, I think you should want to be there because you've got things to say. And Sanyika Calloway Boyce was able to do a couple of things for me because I had never been on television. I'm not the world's greatest speaker. I'm not the world's most dynamic person. But she was able to put together a package that fit perfectly with the media, that attracted their attention, that tied into a major morning show in Philadelphia, and coached me through the entire process so that I did not look like a total idiot. And I think I was fairly successful at that, right, Sanyika? And that is a huge part in absolute tribute to Sanyika Calloway Boyce. And if you get the chance to pick her brain, she can give you so many ideas. And even more importantly, she's an incredible, warm human being. And even better than that, because there's so many warm, caring individuals that don't do what they say they're going to do, she is a person that delivers over and over and over again. I mean, she says she's going to do it, she commits to it, and she makes it happen. And then she makes it happen about 3 steps further than you ever possibly imagined that she was going to make it happen. She had a television producer show up with me on the show and coach me through it and videotape it and take pictures so that I could use that information over and over, because the power of being on television is not just the appearance, right? It's how do you leverage that after the fact. So maybe 1 million people see you and they glance by and 5 minutes later they forget about you, but how many times can you use that over and over and over? This is a person who has been on, I don't know, countless now television shows. She just did a great tour with some dynamic people to take people actually to New York City, to put them in a major show and meet the people there, to be coached through the process, to actually sit in behind the scenes of that show. I was so jealous that I wasn't there, you can't even imagine. And somehow I'm going to twist her arm and make her take me to the next one. But at any rate, Sanyika Calloway Boyce, give her a standing ovation.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here at Impact because, as Ken was sharing with you, when we were working on the first Impact, it's amazing to see the progression of things and how things go. And here's what I'm going to invite you guys to do, because I don't have my glasses on today. So if anybody who's sitting below these 2 tables, if I could invite you to move up, that would be helpful, because I like to connect with as many of you as I can. So we'll take a moment and just shift up, just move up a little bit more. That would be really great. Thank you. So to see how impact has grown and how it's morphed and it's changed has been a really, really exciting process. And how many of you, by show of hands, are authors? Great. How many of you are practicing, what I call practicing professionals? That means basically that you have some credentials behind your name. You're a chiropractor, a doctor, a CFP. You've done some sort of specialized training. How many of you in this room, great, thank you. How many of you are experts? I should see every single hand go up for that. Okay, how many of you, last question, for now anyway, how many of you would love to have major media exposure for your book, your business, your brand, your product, your service, yourself? I like that. Well, good. That's what we're going to talk about today with the power of TV publicity, and particularly how to make TV producers love you. But I also wanted to include in there some tips, some strategies, some techniques around video as well. So what you'll learn about working with the media is infinite behavioral flexibility. And so we're having a little bit of a tech challenges, so Michael's going to just switch us out so that you guys can see some of the videos, but we're going to keep going with the presentation with how to make TV producers love you. So there are a couple of things that when I began to start working with the media, I had to begin to figuring out. And one of the things that I worked on was, what is it going to take to get the producers to ultimately read my email, answer my phone call, respond to my pitch, do the things that they ultimately need to do to get me what I want, which is the media exposure. And so that's really where the Media Star strategy was created. So if you're taking notes, the STAR strategy is actually an acronym. And STAR represents S-T-A-R-R. So you have to add that extra little R in there for the star. Because what do we want most? How many of us want more exposure in our industry? How many of us, keep your hands up, if you want more attention from the target audience that you're ultimately trying to reach? How many of you want to have the credibility and the visibility that media could bring? How many of you want to use the media to sell more of your books? How many of you want to use the media to attract more people to your website? How many of you want to use the media to ultimately attract more clients to your business? Great, so all of those are the same reasons that I ultimately decided to use television publicity specifically as one of the mediums of media. Now I know that Warren earlier talked about social media and the value and the power of that. Totally makes sense. What I consider TV publicity is like a spoke in your wheel of all the different types of media that you're ultimately going to do. So just to give you a bit of background, I am, or my media persona, is a financial fitness coach. And basically, as the financial fitness coach, I help my clients who are challenged with their finances, who have, are you having a challenge, Steve? Okay. Who are challenged with their finances, come to a happy place with their money, and more importantly, deal with the combination between the emotions and the practical parts of money. Now, when I started my business 6 years ago and left corporate America, I primarily worked with teens and college students. I wrote my books for teens and college students. I worked in the teen and college market, and about 18 months ago, I decided to expand my business. Now, how many of us have ever been in the business expansion mode and you realize there's a whole lot I'm going to have to do to grow this business to the point where my previous business was? And how many of you have had the scary experience of going, how am I going to do that more quickly than I did the last time? Well, that's exactly where I found myself. I had left my corporate job. I'd started working with teens. That was going really well. And then I realized I can actually do this for the adult market. But I had a couple of hurdles. One was I didn't want to take as long as I had taken to build my first business. The second was that there were already people in the marketplace whose voices seemed, at least at the moment, bigger than mine, whose presence seemed larger than mine. Anyone ever heard of Susie Orman? How about Dave Ramsey? Gene Chatsky? David Bach? Any of the what are considered financial celebrities. So there was actually already individuals who were using the media to promote their message, their books, their businesses, and their brands around personal finance. So then my question to myself was, and raise your hand if this has ever happened to you, who am I to stand in that space? What would be important about me? Why would they want to listen to or pay attention to me if all of these other people are out there doing it? I'm here to share with you, and I want to encourage you that even if there's someone right now who's already in your industry that's doing it, that's on TV, that's using the media in a powerful way that it seems like their name is on everyone else's lips, there's still room for you in the marketplace. In fact, there needs to be a you in the marketplace for your particular industry because you have something that's valuable to say. The viewers need to see it. The audience that you've written the books for need to connect with it. And ultimately, there is a space for you, just like there was a space for me in that same marketplace. Yes or yes? Yes or yes? Yes, absolutely. So don't allow that to be a daunting thing for you. After I got over that initial fear of, okay, there are a lot of other people owning this space, how in the world am I going to stand and have a voice in it? I began to think about, okay, well, clearly, this is going to be the biggest and the fastest way for me to get the kind of exposure to grow my business and to anchor myself moving from the teen and college market into the adult market. So now that I'm here, well, I better do what I need to do. Because often as authors, how many of us came face to face with the reality after we wrote our books that the hard part wasn't actually writing the book? Yeah, exactly. Ken's kind of like waving. That's one of the many parts that you'll realize. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you've written the book, if nobody knows that you've written the book. If the book isn't getting the kind of exposure, if you're not out there sharing the message of the book. And so that's really what TV publicity was about and why the STAR strategy was created. I had to figure out pretty quickly how to get my message out to the media and to use that platform as a way to leverage it. And so in doing that, like many entrepreneurs, I had to figure out what worked, what didn't work, and how to work with the media pretty quickly. Now, as I was doing that process, I realized that I had actually created something. Most of us in here, all of us who are entrepreneurs definitely, have figured out a way maybe to shortcut something or to do something a little bit differently or more efficiently, and we don't even fully acknowledge that we've created a system around it. How many of you have just got something that you know it's like, boom, rinse and repeat, I can do it again and again, and I did it because I had to figure out how to make it work, right? Right. So that's really what the Media Star strategy was. It was me doing the things that didn't work sometimes and that worked and figuring out, okay, what are the parts and pieces that are actually consistently working? How do I stick with those and leave those others behind? So the acronym first is START Becoming a Great Guest. So START Becoming a Great Guest is the anchor for the Media Star strategy. What does that really mean when you're a great guest for the media? It ultimately means you sharing with the producers how they can use you. Now, if that sounds a little bit offensive, let me clear that up. Basically, it means coming to them and letting them know, this is who I am, this is what I have to offer, and this is ultimately how I could add value to your viewers. That's what the producer is looking for. So START Becoming a Great Guest is really at the heart of understanding what it is that producers are looking for. It's also understanding where you fit in what I call the publicity profile. Now, when I asked you earlier some of your professions and how you came to how you came to be an entrepreneur, many of you raised your hand for different categories. There are two primary categories that you're probably going to fit into when it comes to marketing your message to the media. The first category is what they consider credentialed experts. How many of you would consider yourself credentialed experts? You have alphabets behind your name, you've done some official schooling, you've got a plaque, a certificate, something like that. So we've got 3 people. Okay, so a credentialed expert is essentially someone who has taken the time to invest in their education in a way that's given them a level of, that's given them a credential that they can usually go out and practice that particular profession. Then we have the experiential expert, such as myself and many of you who are in this room and who are watching this on DVD. Because an experiential expert is essentially, I've been there, I've done that, and I got the t-shirt on credit to prove it. How many of us fit that category? Right. So the experiential expert is essentially that person who may not have had the official schooling for the particular thing that they do or talk about, but they've had the experience to really be able to stand and own that space. For me as a financial fitness coach, I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm not a a CPA. I don't have any credentials in the financial arena. However, having come back from the brink of bankruptcy and turning a really messy situation into a powerful message, I'm an experiential expert in that place. So as a financial fitness coach, that's the persona that I hold when I'm in the media. Whatever your particular area of expertise that you have got the experience in, that's this place you're going to own. I have a client who is a health and wellness expert, and she became a health and wellness expert because her child was diagnosed with ADHD, and she didn't want to, or she chose not to use some of the medications that are currently being administered, and she figured out a way to work with her child with some behavioral and some food modifications to ultimately remove the need to have that particular medication. And so she is the expert because she actually went through the steps, figured out the foods, figured out the best way to ultimately create a situation where she could help other people duplicate that process and do the same thing. So if you're an experiential expert, it's great. The media wants you. They can actually use your message. And in a lot of cases, it actually connects with the viewer and the audience because it's like, okay, I see that this person has gone to school and's got the education, which is important and necessary, but it's not always something that people can connect with. It's like, oh yeah, you can do that because you're a lawyer. You can do that because you're a doctor. Now, if someone rapidly lost weight and kept it off for several years, and by using a particular program or process or strategy that wasn't a doctor or that didn't have that particular credential, sometimes it's easier for that viewer or that audience to connect with you. So there's definitely a place to play, regardless of whether you're a credentialed expert or experiential expert. And that's really what it means to start becoming a great guest. The next is targeting shows to pitch and knowing which of the shows are going to be the best fit for your media message. Now, just as, how many of you in here have already defined your niche and are pretty committed to that niche that you're in? Great, so the majority of you have a niche and you're in it. So whatever that niche is for you, just like you're going to market specifically to that niche, the same is true with shows. Each show, whether it's a news show, whether it's a TV talk show, whether it's a TV talk show, has a particular target audience that they ultimately connect with. So knowing where your message fits is an important thing. For me, it was important for me to know which types of shows I could ultimately take my message to. And one of the things that I get into in the TV Publicity Secrets system is talking about the concept of making your message scalable and portable. Because as a personal finance expert, I want to be sure that I can also talk about other topics that connect our money. So I talk about money and relationships in some of the segments. Not that I'm a relationship expert or do I aspire to be, but I know that that's a topic that often intermingles and comes into play. So what are some of those things that it might not specifically fit in that niche, but you know because you're an expert in that category, you have the ability to talk about? The next thing is accelerate your marketing. It was also important for me to figure out what's the way to market to the media and what do they need to see from me that's different than maybe the way that I market to my clients or potential client. Now, how many of you have gotten a pretty extensive press kit? You've got lots of papers and glossy colors and things like that. We've got one person. Okay, so I'm going to help you. But for everybody else who didn't, good, because a lot of times you don't need that. Some people have taken the time to invest in those press kits, and they're great if you've already done that. But for those of you who haven't, it's not a requisite to do that. In the TV Publicity Secret system, I simply show you what I call the one sheet. And it's a double-sided sheet with just the information that a producer's going to need from me that I can send to them with a copy of my book and let them know who I am, what I do, the topics that I can speak about, and how they can ultimately book me as a guest for their show. So the one sheet is a great way to market your message to the media without going through the process or the expense of investing in a large or expensive press kit. And then reaching out to producers. So what do I do? How do I make a connection with the producer? Is it better to email them? Is it better to call them on the phone? Should I send something in the mail? Should I do all of the above? How do I develop a relationship with them? That was a huge question that I had to ask and answer and figure out what's going to be the best way, not only for it to work for me, but then ultimately as I began to share this message with other people. Because again, I didn't really know that I was creating a system. It was just something that evolved as I was figuring out what worked and what didn't work, and ultimately wanting to share it with other people who were asking me, Sanyika, how are you doing all of this media? What are you doing? I've got a publicist, and I'm not getting the kind of media hits that I want. Or I'm trying to get in touch with the media, and they're not calling me back. How is it working for you? So that reach out to the producers is really first understanding that producers are people too. In fact, I was sharing with one of my producer friends, I said, I'm going to start a campaign that's called Producers Are People Too. And she laughed, and she's like, I'm going to be the first one there, because so often producers are sometimes treated as, okay, I want to get on your show. And so that's the only way that we approach them. But if you understand that it's really about developing a relationship with them, people do business with people they what? What's the common phrase? Know, like, and trust. Producers book people that they know, like, and trust, that they feel like are looking to build the relationship ultimately with them. And then finally, the fifth R, the fifth letter, the second R, is rise to the occasion. And rise to the occasion is really, what do you do when you're on camera? Now, Ken said, I just didn't want to look crazy on TV. How many of you have a secret fear that I'm going to ask you to express in public, that you're just afraid of, like, what camera should I look at? Am I going to look crazy when I'm on TV? Am I the only one? You raised your hand, so thank you. That was a concern for me. Thank you. It was like, well, which camera do I look at? Am I going to look silly? Am I going to look stiff? Am I going to look like a deer in the headlights? How do you rise to the occasion? And more importantly, how do you use one television appearance and leverage it for multiple times? So that's really what the STAR strategy is all about. And I want to dig into each of those just a little bit more for you. So start becoming a great guest, as I mentioned. In the anatomy of a great guest, really it's not just about, I've got this compelling message, I've got an interesting topic, I'm the author of this book. It's about understanding what kind of individual the producer is looking for, what they've used, what the type of individual or expert they've used in the past, and ultimately how you can fit within a model that pretty much already exists. It's not difficult to figure out what a show is particularly looking for when you see the type of experts that they're booking, you see the types of books that they feature on the show, or the type of information that they show. That's really what you want to focus on when you're thinking about becoming a great guest. And the other thing, too, is identifying what I call the intangibles. Those things that might not be obvious to you, but those things that you know are unique about you. If you know that you have a way of sharing a particular bit of information in your area of expertise, or you've crafted a particular strategy or technique or tactic in your area of expertise, that's going to be really something that's going to add value and be beneficial to TV producers. That's what they're looking for, and that's part of what it means to really be a great guest. What I want to do now is I want to give you the opportunity to hear directly from a national television producer that I had the opportunity to interview what they're looking for from you, each and every one of you who want to be a guest on their show.
Well, thank you for doing it for me. No problem. You're a good friend of the show. So. Hi, I'm Sanyika Calloway Boyce, and I'm here with Jen Tuttle. And Jen, you've worked on several shows. You've been a producer for a while now. What are some of the shows that you've actually worked on?
I started as the receptionist for the Montel Williams show, and I worked my way up to producer there. And then after that, I was over at Court TV, and I worked on Courtside with Banfield and Ford, and now I'm here.
So you've had a lot of experience with the talk show format, and particularly with Montel. I mean, I know that often booking guests in terms of guest experts and people who can really share their expertise and really get the audience pulled into the message and ultimately add value. Mm-hmm. Those are some key things that are important. For you, as you've honed your producer chops, what have you found that's been like, gosh, this really makes a great guest, or no, not so much? What are some of the things for you?
It's really interesting. It's completely different. At Montel, you really wanted people who were really great would just kind of like, peel that layer of the onion and really dive into their story and give you all those little tidbits and different information. Here you're definitely looking for people who can kind of, wrap it up in quick sound bites for you, someone who can give you their story in like a minute or two. You just want people who are great talkers, who you really feel for, that you're pulled into their story, and good personality is also a huge thing. Also, someone can be a good talker, but if you don't feel for them, you're not going to be interested in what they have to say.
So now that's the person that you would be kind of working with as an expert. You would be working with someone who's got a personality and has got a story, something that they can tell in a short amount of time, and then ultimately is probably something that other people can relate to as well.
Yep, definitely.
Now, as the expert who's working with that person, what's important about them and bringing them in to pair up with this other person?
We just want to make sure that, first of all, that they can offer something to them. You want to make sure that, even when we use you for the financial segments, that we speak with you ahead of time. We let you know what those questions are going to be. We make sure that there's a good payout there in the end, that there's going to be some sort of takeaway information. It wouldn't make much sense if they can't speak to the topic, if they're not well informed of the topic. Even like sometimes, I know you do with the guests, you talk with them ahead of time and you do the questionnaires with them, just so you know what they're going through, so we have all the, the best information we can have to help them out in the end.
So it's really about adding the value to the viewer and making sure that not only the person that you're working with, or maybe not, because you might, as an expert, you might not be working with a person, you might just be giving some tips or information. So those sound bites are important, quick tips are important.
Takeaway information is the big thing. You definitely want to be able to, so you're not just giving your guests information, that you're giving the viewers at home something that they can take away also is a huge thing as well.
That's great to know. What about when you're getting pitched? Because I'm sure, your day starts early and it ends late, and you've got emails and phone calls and everything. How do you manage them all? How do you know which ones to respond to right away and which ones to go, no, I'm not even going to bother?
It totally depends on the show. Every show is after something completely different, and even with our show, we had a change in management while I was here, and we kind of went from doing one type of show to a completely different type of show. So it's really just, watching your show every day, listening to what's going on, paying attention to what kind of segments are going on, and just getting a real feel for the show. We have pitch meetings. We used to have them once a week. They're a little bit farther apart now, but you kind of know right away when somebody pitches you something, if it's something we're interested in or if it's something we're not interested in. And, if it's the celebrity stuff, what they can offer, what we can do with them, that's fun. Experts, what they can speak to and how to make it more interesting and widen it up and broaden it. So you kind of know right away if it's something you're going to be interested in or not.
So for you, it's important that the person who's pitching you, they know the show. They know what kind of segments you've done in the past, so they're not wasting their time or yours.
Exactly. I've been pitched. It's important to know the show you're pitching. That's a really big thing. Know our show. Know that we're part of the whole Fox family here. When one of the Fox anchors had a new book come out, we were pitched this anchor, and when they were like, "Oh, they're a part of the Fox, News Corporation," it's like, so are we. You should know that if you're going to pitch me that. And that's kind of insulting when you're not even aware of who you're pitching. We get pitched people we have on the show on a weekly basis, and it's you should know that if you're pitching us. You should know what your client's doing, and you should know what we're about also.
That brings up a really great point, because there's obviously a difference between you getting pitched by a publicist or someone who's in the PR world and getting pitched by the expert themselves. Do you have a preference as a producer? Do you feel like it's...
Well, I think it depends. If it's a good expert and it's a good publicist, they're going to know what we're after, so they're going to be really great, strong pitches. If it's, somebody who's never seen the show before, and they pitch us something that we would never do, then that's it. It just depends if it's a good pitch or not. It doesn't matter who it comes from.
Okay, that's good to know. Now, here's another question. There's something called a pre-interview that kind of gives you as the producer the chance to go, let me feel this person out. I like their email, I like their pitch, I like maybe what they've sent me, but now it's really time to kind of put them under this microscope. Exactly. For you, what do you need to hear in a pre-interview? What needs to happen for you as the producer to say, this is someone I want on my show?
It works different at different shows, but I know the way it works at a lot of the shows that I've worked at is the associate producer is usually the first producer that reaches out to the guest, gets them on the phone, make sure, do make sure that they're understandable, make sure that they have good energy, that they're not answering with one-word answers, that they're elaborating, that, that their story actually checks out, that they're not just, full of it, those types of things. And if you know that they're a good talker and you're confident in their story and you really like them, then you pass them on to the producer who does a more elaborate pre-interview with them, and that they really get into their story. They're the one who kind of pulls out the different talking points and all the different just examples and things we want to touch on during the actual segment interview. And then it's really up to the producer to approve that story if you're going to use it or not.
So during that pre-interview, you should basically, as the expert, know if you get a call after you've made this pitch, you're on, essentially.
Yeah.
You have to
really sell it. And you also have to, I think a lot of times people don't realize is that the associate producer and the associate producer doesn't always give the producer all the notes that you guys spoke on the phone. So even if you think you're repeating yourself, say it again, because you're selling yourself here. So even if you tell me your story and I transfer you to someone else, tell the same story again. Sell it again. Don't just assume we know something. I hate when I get on the phone with someone, I say, oh, I got your pitch, tell me what's going on. And the first sentence is, well, as I put it in my email, I don't care if it's in your email. I want to hear it from you. That as soon as I hear that sentence, it throws me off. I hate it. I think it's like, if I'm calling you back, if you're pitching me and I'm calling you back, you should take your time to really sell yourself to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's important. So even though you've already got it here, and maybe you didn't read the email fully, or you just really
We're
want
not
to
reading
hear.
emails fully. I'll be completely honest. You're going to look at the first, 2 or 3 sentences. Something's going to catch it. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? It's interesting. Let me get on the phone. Let me see what they have to say. Is this real? Does it really work? And then that's, where it's up to them to sell it at that point.
So it sounds like the chemistry really happens, or the magic really happens. As technologically savvy as we are, is really that concept in communication.
Especially, it's a talk show. It's a talk show, and you're looking
No, it's
for,
not.
Personalities and people who are really good.
If I hear
at
anything,
and,
I'll call
close
you.
together.
That makes
Well,
That's live
there's no
TV.
other way to
Thank you
know.
so much
No
for taking
problem. I hope it helps.
It definitely helps. It definitely will help you become a great guest.
Well,
Thanks so much.
inevitable,
No problem.
you know,
Thank you.
All right. So in becoming a great guest, I really wanted to hear, I want you to connect with, and I hope that you all had a chance to hear, but I want to check in with you. What were some of the things that you heard from the producer's perspective that's important for you in being a great guest? What are they looking for from you, and what can you take away? Right.
Keep on because they may not have heard this before, and so stay with your subject. And that was my huge takeaway from that whole thing.
Great. Stay with the subject. Don't assume that they've already got the information or they read the full email. What else? What were some of the other takeaways?
Well, I like how she says that she likes getting pitches from experts. A lot of people who write books, they think they have to hire a publicist to pitch them, but actually sometimes you're the best pitcher of your
You're the best deliverer of your message.
Yes, of your message, and that way you can save money that way as well while hiring a third party.
Absolutely. How about you?
To know who it is that you are speaking with and to think of their audience and know that show so that you know how to present your message to that audience.
Absolutely. So that it's that niche. It's about knowing, just like you, if you have a specific niche that you're marketing to, you would market specifically to them. You want to know the show. So it's the very same concept. You're just taking it over to the TV realm. I'll get you and then you. Go ahead.
You want to know more than just that show, though. You want to know what else they're associated with and who they're associated with.
Right.
You don't want to step on any toes. And they also want lots of energy.
Yes, energy and knowing, not only knowing the show, but is this show part of a bigger family of shows? Maybe you've pitched another one. Maybe this particular show out of that family is a better fit than another one, which is great to know. How about you? What was your takeaway from that? Yes, as soon as you make your pitch, you're on. You're going to be the person that they're going to have in the seat. And just like you'd suggested, that even if you have a publicist call on your behalf, the associate producer and or the producer are going to ultimately want to talk to the person who's going to be sitting on that stage with them. You are on, when you're on the phone with them, they're doing that interview and wanting to share your energy right then and there.
She said she made the decision in about the first couple of lines of reading
The email or the package, right.
or the package or whatever. She made the decision in
And here's the thing, I love that you brought that up, because sometimes I think that when we're doing something new, and particularly I found with my clients, when we're marketing to the media, they think that it's this new magic thing. But the reality is, how many of us open our email, look at the first subject line and the first couple sentences and see if we want to keep reading? Hello? Am I the only one? Are we the... Exactly. So the producers are the same. And so the fact that you heard that and caught that, it's like, oh, there are people too. They do the same thing that I do. I want to make sure I'm putting the pertinent, important, candid stuff right there at the top. And that's exactly what I support you in doing with TV Publicity Secrets, is really knowing the parts that you need to put right there at the top to grab their attention, to get them to pick up the phone and take you to that next step. Anything else before anybody else want to share? So that's really what it means to become a great guest. Next, in targeting shows to pitch, it really is about, as we kind of started talking a little bit about, not only knowing the specific show, but the next drill down is developing your hook and perfecting your pitch. It's really grabbing the attention of the producers, as you suggested, in the first couple of lines, getting them to see, this is the message, this is what I want to ultimately talk about. Now, here's one of the things I want to say before I show you some of the next clips. For those of us who are authors, often we fall into the trap when we're marketing our message to the media, I'm an author of this book. The truth is, they don't really care. That's the bottom line. What they care about is the information in the book. Your responsibility, our responsibility, my responsibility as the person who's letting the producer know that I'm the author of this book is to bring the book to life, is to open it literally for them and pull out the essence of what it is. So it's not just about, I'm the author of this book, I'd be great for your show, I should be on your show. They don't really care. What they really want to know is, why'd you write the book? What's in the book? What information from the book can you pull out and share with our viewers so that they ultimately want to buy the book, or at least find value in what it is you've taken the time to write? If you walk away with nothing else, hear that loud and clear. They don't care about your book. What they care about is the message that's in your book. And your opportunity to share your book with millions of people, to get it on TV, as Ken has done, as many of my clients have done, is to bring out the essence of the message in the book. Yes or yes? Yes, that's an important one. So developing your pitch and developing your hook and perfecting your pitch are going to be important to do that. And delivering your message using the CQC formula. I call the CQC formula clear, quick, and concise. One of the things that you might have picked up on that Jen, one of the producers at Fox, said was, sometimes you've got to deliver it in sound bites. You've got to get your message out in a short amount of time. Generally, a television segment, whether it's on a news program or a TV talk show, is going to be somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes long. Now, that might not seem like a lot of time, but using the CQC formula, you actually have the ability to get your message points out there, to ultimately do what it is that you want to do and need to do, and to deliver your message clearly, quickly, and concisely. I want to show you 2 videos. The first one I'm going to show you is a quick coaching session that I did with one of my clients. I'm going to show you the first couple of minutes because we're starting to, with him, help him figure out how he's going to deliver his message using the CQC formula. And then, right after that, I'm going to go into showing you the video of ultimately his 4-minute interview and how he was able to craft a pretty large message and bring it down pretty small.
Oh, great. So Paul, what is it that you want to get out of the interview, and what do you want the viewer who's watching to ultimately get?
Ultimately, I would say that out of the interview, that I definitely want to increase visibility, increase connection, increase credibility, and I know that I would be totally an unknown for anybody watching, and so I would love to be able to build some very quick rapport so that people can say, okay, that's somebody I can trust, somebody I can look to, and get that feeling. Even if they don't show up on the site, even if it ends up being 5 or 6 interviews later, they end up going, okay, that's someone that I want to know more about.
Know, like, trust.
Right.
Now, and who is it that you're looking to attract with this particular message? Are you looking to attract the already entrepreneur, the one who's kind of on the fence and I'm thinking about it and not sure? Who do you want to be speaking to in this interview?
I'd say primarily the person who is wanting to make that extra money.
Okay.
Maybe even getting started, have thought about doing something, maybe even intrigued about online online business, internet business. They've heard about it, but they've never taken that step.
Are they apprehensive? Are they afraid? Have they heard? So do you have to dispel some myths?
Yes. Yeah, definitely have to dispel myths. They've heard things, but they believe, have a skepticism about it, believing that, can I really do that with integrity? Can I really do something that I know? Is it really that easy? Is there more to it than what I've seen on the infomercial at 2 a.m.?
Okay, so how does doing an interview / segment around the 5 myths of money making online?
Okay, I love that.
And
Absolutely.
so I'm coming in and I'm like, okay, so
Okay.
after the break, we're going to be talking to Paul Evans. We're going to be talking about the 5 myths of money making online. And so we're kind of even playing to that whole, I knew that there was something
Right,
about
right,
making money
right.
online that wasn't true. So what would those 5 myths be? And then how do you dispel them? So just from a coachable standpoint, a couple of things. We've got the KLT. We know we want to create the know, like, trust.
Okay.
Whenever you're creating these points, I want you to always come with the 2 things. The first, the so what.
Okay.
The 2, remembering to ask yourself and to be able to think about what's timely about this, what's relevant, what's
Okay.
possible controversial, which we've got some myths, what's compelling and interesting. And then I also want you to incorporate with each answer the because and the benefit.
Okay.
So if you were to say one of the myths is that making money online is hard, maybe that's a myth, because and then the benefit. So
Okay.
just thinking about that and you don't have to articulate the because and the benefit, but just kind of think about
Right,
it. And I'll pull those out of you as well.
Okay.
So all right, so we're talking.
That's just the first part of the coaching session where I really wanted to help Paul craft what the ultimate message is going to be. What's the information that you want to get out of there? Did anybody hear the 5 ingredients that I had suggested that he make sure he talked about in there? What do you remember one of the elements?
You asked him about coming up with a set of 5 things to talk about the myths and how to dispel those myths. To give them a framework to work with.
Giving them a framework to work with. The media they love things that their viewers can take and do something with. The 5 steps for this, the 4 tips about this, the 6 strategies, the 2 things you can do right now. So it supports you and it also supports them because it creates the segment for you. If I know where I'm going, it's like, oh, okay, I know what I can put in that place there. What were you going to say? Asking, is it timely? Is it relevant? Is it compelling or interesting? Is it conversational or possibly controversial? Is it visually appealing? Those are the 5 things that you want to ask yourself. Now, you don't need all of those ingredients in there, but you definitely want to have some of those in as part of your pitch. Those will really help you sell it, as Jen suggested, to the producer ultimately. Pulls it together in a very nice way. So in this particular example with Paul, with my client, he basically said, you know what? There are people who think that there is something mysterious about making money online. So I've got to dispel some myths. So that's somewhat controversial because it's just like, oh, I knew that there was something really behind the curtain there. So really that the 5 myths about making money online was the way that he chose to put a little bit of controversy in the segment that he's ultimately going to pitch. And so here's after our coaching session, what we came up with for his 4 minutes and 38 seconds of the interview. And we did this on video because he was actually using this video online as well as submitting it to producers. This volume is really bad.
Our online business is really legitimate business. And Paul is here to debunk and to bust all of the myths, or at least 5 of the key ones that you probably have heard about having an online business. So I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Paul, tell me a little bit first how you got started on having a business online.
Okay, I got started simply because I was doing some public speaking and some individuals wanted to know how to speak as well. And I thought, well, what I'd love to do is put together my own product, but I didn't have any knowledge about doing that, did not know that I didn't need my own product, and went through all the hoops hoops to set up my own online business. Since then, I found out it's much easier.
Oh, well, that starts the first question, or the first myth, I should say, because it seems like it's a difficult thing, especially for those of us like me who are not technologically savvy. What would you say, or what's the myth around that? I think a lot of people are scared about being technical.
Right. The myth is that you've got to be some sort of techno whiz, and the truth is that you don't have to have much knowledge, or really zero knowledge, just to get started. In fact, we have a simple site set up called watchmyvideos.com, and we had a lady who was 62 years old, no internet background, simply watched our step-by-step videos, and within 24 hours had her own website.
Wow. Okay, so I'm definitely not 62 yet, but I could probably use those videos. So you're watching these videos, you get this thing up in 24 hours, but what are you actually selling?
Well, it's so simple. There are so many things that people have already done all the hard work for you. They've already written books, or they have products that are on the market, anything from scrapbooking to how to have the perfect lawn, and they will more than gladly pay you to recommend or mention their products. They've done all the hard work for you. You do not have to have your own product.
Okay, so, those are kind of two of the myths. What's something else that people are kind of fearful about when it comes to starting a business online?
They're scared of how much it would cost to get started, because it seems like it would be expensive, but it's not at all. In fact, you can easily get started for under $100, and much less than that if you want to get started quickly and get started simply. So it does not take a lot of money to get started.
I'm thinking you could probably dig in the cushions of your couch, maybe, go through some old jean pockets and find $100 there to get started.
Absolutely.
And watching those videos that you talked about, within 24 hours,
Yeah.
that seems like something pretty great to start up with. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of things on the internet have been coming out about people being scams and just doing kinds of things to get people's money. How safe is it to have a business online?
It's super safe. The great news is there are 1 million plus businesses already doing successful business online. You can look for things just to give you some personal comfort, such as the Better Business Bureau online sale, or the Hacker Safe sale, or even testimonials that are online at places like Amazon or eBay, sites that people will be familiar with.
Well, yeah, I am very familiar with Amazon. In fact, I get a lot of my books and all kinds of great stuff there. But they're a huge business. I mean, they are a well-oiled machine. So it seems like even eBay is a pretty big business. Do you have to be a big business in order to be profitable online?
Not at all. In fact, that's another one of the myths, is that you've got to be a big business. The truth is the internet was created with the small business person in mind. And in fact, getting started, the smaller, the better. You can get started from your home and be able to do it, like we've already mentioned, for just pennies.
Wow, that seems like it's really great. So where can people go to find out more about how they can start these businesses for themselves?
The best place to go is our site, which trains you for free. And just go to watchmyfreevideos.com, and it will show you step-by-step how to get started in your own internet business.
Okay, you guys heard it here. Watchmyfreevideos.com. That's where you can go. And I think in 24 hours, if you watch the videos, you can be up and running. So there are no more excuses, no reasons why not to have a business. This has been really great. Thanks, Paul, for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, and coming up next, we're going to be talking about dog training. We'll see you soon.
Okay, so 4 minutes, 38 seconds. Do you think he was effective in getting his message across? Did you get some, as the viewer, what did you get, as if you were watching this at home, what did you get from it? What were some of the tips that you could take away, maybe if you've never had an internet business? It's cheap to do. It's cheap to get started. What else? You don't need your own product. I'll show you how. It's quick. You were shaking your head. What was your takeaway? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw you shaking your head. Anybody else? So you got some value from watching that interview as the viewer. What else did you notice that he was able to do a couple of times that was supportive to him? Get his website up. Absolutely. Because here's the thing. When you're using the media as a medium to market your message, there are 3 primary audiences that you always want to keep into consideration. The first audience is the producer. You heard from Jen earlier. She talked about what's important from a producer's perspective, making her happy, understanding that this is what the producer's job is, this is what they're ultimately looking for, this is what they're going to need. The second audience is the viewer. the person who is watching, listening, reading, whatever medium you're choosing, whether it's radio, TV, print, web, the viewer, the reader, the person who's in receiving the information that you're giving is going to be that next audience that you need to take care of. And then the third audience, who has an idea of who that third audience might be? So we've got the producers as the first audience, and then the viewers is the second audience. So who is the third audience that you need to be mindful of serving? Not exactly. Who do we love the most? Ourselves, us. We are the third person. So when you're using any type of marketing, just remember, the first person I am, particularly with TV, is the producer. They have a job to do. They have expectations of me, so I need to make sure that I'm serving and supporting them. The second audience is the viewers. Am I giving value to the viewers? Can they walk away from an experience with me and get some information? Now, here's a question I want to ask you. If you never went to his website, if you never invested in anything that he had to offer, if you never opted in to his squeeze page, did you get value from watching what he had to say? Yes or yes? That's what you want to make sure that you do. When you come from that position of giving before you ever seek to get, that's really what's important to the viewers. They want to know, hey, listen, I sat down for a couple of seconds in between, my kids screaming and me having to make coffee and going off to do whatever I was going to do, and wow, that was really good. I know I can start a business online. It's pretty cheap. I know where I can go if I want to do it. But some of those things that I had kind of playing around in the back of my mind, is this really legit? Is this really real? Should I be going down this avenue? Those questions were answered for me. I got value from watching that. That's what you want to make sure that you're doing as well. So that's the viewer. And then the third person is you. It's great to be on television. It's great to have your, to be on social media sites and to have your articles have your articles in newspapers and magazines, or to have your interview on the radio. All those things are great. But you know what? If you never remembered that while you're there, what's also important is for you to be bringing people back to doing ultimately what it is that you want them to do, then something's missing, right? So you want to make sure that whether it's your book, whether it's your product, whether it's your service, whatever information, when you can use that CQC formula that I teach in TV Publicity Secrets to really weave that message in, so you're adding value to the viewer, but then you're ultimately making sure that the message that you want to get out, the call to action, if you will, which is important for you, because that's the reason, after all, you're using this medium, right? You're using it so that you can get the exposure to the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are going to watch, who ultimately are going to go to your video, to your website, who are ultimately going to buy your book, who are ultimately going to do what you want them to do. And so it doesn't make sense for you to have this opportunity and not capitalize on it in a way that everybody gets served and supported and it feels good for everyone. Because when you do that, everybody gets what they want, and then ultimately you become a great guest, someone that producers want to bring back again and again. So accelerating your marketing is really what we talked about, the marketing materials. It doesn't require that you have a full-on press kit. If you've got one, great, but if not, a one-sheet is what I would recommend. And basically a one-sheet has a couple of elements. I fully lay it out in TV Publicity Secrets, but basically the one sheet is a double-sided sheet of paper, usually printed on like a cardstock or a high-color glossy, and it basically has a picture of you. You want your headshot on there because it's important for them to see a recent picture of you. You also want your talking points on there. Are there particular topics that you can cover? Maybe there's one or two evergreen pitches that you know really work well that you want to put on there. You also want to put any books that you have, any products that you've created, just giving yourself a bit more validation and credibility to who it is that you are and why you're talking about that particular subject. If you've got credentials, that's great. Make sure you put them on there. A brief bio. You also want your contact details on there. Your phone number, your cell phone, definitely. As Jen said, TV, as much as it is, and as technologically savvy as we've gotten, telephone is still a primary part of the way producers work with you. And here's the other thing. Having an alternate number on there is great because a lot of times they'll see a pitch and they might have a show that you would be great for the next day. You need to be able to be reached pretty quickly. Your web address is definitely something you want on there. An email address is something that you want on there. For those of you who have yet to build your website, what I want to suggest to you is if you don't have a domain name, then I want you to get an email address that's generic enough that works for the media. And here's what I mean. I will have people who will send pitches, and in fact, one of my producers kind of showed me just like the ton of emails I got in. And while we were talking, literally her BlackBerry like went off. I mean, it was crazy. After a while, she just had to turn the volume off. She's like, I just wanted you to hear that for like the 10 minutes while we were sitting here, how many pitches I've gotten. But she let me scroll down, and as I was scrolling down, she's like, you know what, you see these 3 right here? I won't even answer them. One of them was, you know, something at theflowerperson.com or something like that. I mean, so the names of the URLs, excuse me, the email addresses that people were using did not seem professional. And because they didn't seem professional, she instantly took them out of the running from a credibility standpoint. So what I mean is, if you've got a cutesy little email address that you're using to send it out, if you don't have a domain yet that you would connect it with, then I would say get a basic Gmail account or a Hotmail or a free account. Gmail is probably going to be the better one that I would suggest you use, but make sure that it's a very simple name. You know, Jane Smith, if that's your name. Something very simple, so it's not going to distract, it's not going to take away, because as much as your subject line is going to stand out for them, it's going to make them say, hey, that's the email I want to read, your email address could also be a turnoff. So keep that in mind. But that's also what you're going to want to have on that one sheet is your email address, your website, and yes?
So like if you have you wouldn't use an email with the subject in it or your...
Yes, you would. You would use the subject. So the subject line is different, but you know, like, so for my email address, it's Sanyika@financialfitnesscoach.com because I own financialfitnesscoach.com. But what I'm saying is, if someone doesn't have an established website as yet, that they would be using as their email address, and instead they were using, you know, sexymama@hotmail, definitely don't do that. Because even if your subject line is great, what's going to set you apart is going to show a level of unprofessionalism if you're sending it from, you know, kind of a crazy Yahoo account. Does that make sense? So be mindful of that, because every point of contact that you're making with the media, they're sizing you up. They're saying, you know, is this person really an expert? Are they, if I put them in the spot of reaching out to my viewers, which they guard pretty fiercely, are they going to be able to deliver? So every point of contact is important, from the most casual email to ultimately when you're on the phone with them, to finally when you're on the show. So that's something that's going to be important. The other thing, quickly in terms of marketing, and I'll tie into this with reaching out to producers, when you send an email, because, again, your subject line is going to stand out really powerfully, but also the content of that message, you want to make sure that you're not talking in text speak. A lot of us have gotten really comfortable with putting things in slang, not spelling things out completely. I want you to assume that you're sending this to your English teacher. And so I want you to write it in a way that's professional, that brings across your level of professionalism as well, so that that person doesn't have to infer that, oh, like they're just being casual with me because this is an email. You really want to have every point of contact really show, I'm the expert, and this is why I'm holding this space. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? Okay, great. Building up the relationships, again, we're making those relationships with everyone from the talent booker to the associate producer to the producers. As Jen suggested, you might go through a chain of people to ultimately get to the producer who's going to make the approval point on the show. So from everybody from the intern that you might talk to when you first call in, to the associate producer or the talent booker who wants to just check out your website, you just want to have a knowledge of all of these people, but also go into it knowing that you're building relationships. Reaching out to producers, everything from contacting producers to being pleasantly persistent. Pleasantly persistent is really something that I think all of us could learn to understand that concept. And it basically is uncomfortable to feel as if you're going to get rejected. None of us like that experience. So often I'll have people say to me, well, I sent a producer an email and they didn't respond to me. Or I left them a voicemail and they didn't call me back. Let me ask you this. How many of you who have done any type of marketing have sent one email and one email only and expected it to get the results that you wanted? Raise your hand. I shouldn't see any hands up. Exactly. So the same is true with producers. Just as if you're doing a marketing campaign and you're sending a series of emails, you're going to be sending a series of pitches. One pitch may or may not work. It might quickly, get pushed down to the bottom for one reason or another. So you want to be pleasantly persistent. You want to be continuing to stay in contact. If you've left a voicemail and they haven't called you back, leave another voicemail. Here's the caveat to that. If you cannot leave a voicemail as if this is the first time you've ever left a voicemail, it's probably not a good time to leave the voicemail. Please do not go, this is the 6th time I've called you and you still haven't called me back. I'm the person who left the message like 3 days ago. If you could please call me back, that really would be... No. If you can't leave the voicemail as if this is the first time you've left the voicemail, it's probably a good indication it's not a good time to leave one. But producers are people too. All of us have gotten voicemails that we haven't been able to return within the next couple of days or even within a week. But you know what? As soon as someone called us back, we're like, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to call you. How many of us have had that happen? Yeah, well, it happens with producers all the time. So imagine you times however many people are ultimately pitching them. That's really the art of being pleasantly persistent. It's first remembering that producers are people too, and two, it's just really just kind of putting yourself in their shoes. Oh, you know what? I sent an email to someone, they didn't respond to me. Let me do a follow-up email so that I go back on their radar or the top of their mind. I want to give you a chance to see one of my clients, Dr. Mara Cullen, is actually an author of a new book, 35 Dumb Things Well-Intentioned People Say, and we had the opportunity to go behind the scenes of the show. I just want to give you some insider tips of what makes good television and ultimately what you can expect when you're on TV. Let's see. Well, hope we can get this one. All right, we're having all kinds of fun with this today. Okay, well, we can't see that one. No worries. So basically, one of the things that Dr. Marr was talking about was when you're actually at a show, how many different things are going on. Let me just get this back for you. I'm having a heck of a time here, huh? There. Okay. All right, how about there we go. How about that? And let's try it. So one of the things that Dr. Mara was talking about in this quick little clip was what really happens behind the scenes, from the green room experience to actually being on the show. And understanding that when you're contacting and working with producers, they first and foremost have a job to do. And their job is essentially to produce what they consider good TV. And good TV is basically what the phrase of edutainment comes into mind. So it's giving value or education, but also having that energy that we talked about, having that level of enthusiasm so that you can ultimately connect with the viewers. And from the experience that she had, she was talking about also the fact that it's a lot that's going on in the studio. I mean, there are producers over here who are kind of waving their arms, telling you that there are a couple of minutes left in the show. And Ken, you can attest to that all of the energy that was kind of happening. In fact, I should have you come up and speak on her behalf about the experience that you had on television. Come on up real quick. I'm going to have you stand in as my video. So, as the experience from the author who had the chance to be on TV, what is it that you took away in terms of the things that happen behind the scenes that most people might not be aware of, that was important for you to know in order to be an effective guest?
Things that I had to to remember on the spot at the time. You have to have a very, very clear, simple message, right?
Yeah.
Because there's only so many things that people can remember out of a very short period of time. And sometimes it's really hard to crystallize everything. I mean, you can attest to this because how big of a vision is impact in general?
Huge, ginormous.
It's a huge vision, right? And I have layers and layers and layers and layers, and I could talk to you about it for, days and days and days. But what if you have to say that in a 10-second soundbite, a 30-second soundbite, a 1-minute soundbite, a 3-minute soundbite, and get your message out and get it in a format that people have to remember. So having that clear message is huge. Being able to listen to the person and respond, and being ready to have those key elements no matter which turn the conversation takes. Sanyika was able to help me anticipate what some of those things might be, what some of the problems might be. She also helped me to structure up front exactly what we could give to them in the ways of visuals or maybe video content that we might be able to have so that we would have something that was appealing for people up front, but that would get our key points out. Because there are ways that you can control the conversation, at least to some degree, and the producer's objectives may not be exactly what your objectives are. And if you're prepared, much like a politician, you can say the things that you want to say no matter what they ask. So those kinds of situations and that kind of training was useful. So I could go on for
Thank
20
you.
minutes,
No,
all the
that's
details.
awesome.
But
No, thanks. And that's really, it's really about having the ability to say what you need to say and want to say so that all of those audiences are getting served, which Ken said so succinctly. So in reaching out to producers, a couple of things that I want you to remember is the same way as if you were networking with someone that you're meeting in person and that you're ultimately building a relationship with over time. That's what I want you to keep in mind. So often where we miss the mark when we're marketing to the media is to go, okay, well, you know what? I sent that pitch and they didn't respond back to me, so I'm not going to call them back again. Or I didn't get booked on the show for this particular one, so you know what? Maybe there's no chance of me going forward. Really, the reason that I have gotten so much media exposure and the reason that I've been on literally almost 100 times in 18 months is because of the relationships. Just like we talked about the know, like, and trust factor earlier with the way that people interact with us, the same is true with producers. So understanding that one call might not do it all, or one email might not do it all, but I'm building a relationship over time. I'm providing them value, and I'm letting them know, most importantly, this is a big thing, how to make their jobs easier. The average producer has about 25 segments that they have to fill in 1 week out of 52 weeks out of the year. Maybe they're on vacation, 4 or 5 of those weeks, but that's a lot of content that they have to fill. So would you say that they're looking for experts, yes or yes? Are they looking for experts, yes or yes? Yes, they have a lot of shows to fill. So if you can approach it from the perspective of, I'm not being a pest, I'm actually being supportive. I'm actually providing them information that'll help make their job easier. Believe me, if you can come with what I call a ready-made show, then that's absolutely going to be valuable. That's absolutely going to be valuable if you can come with a ready-made show, knowing that you're developing and creating the relationship over time. So the fifth one is rising to the occasion. So what do I do? What are the things that I do before the show to get myself prepped up? Ken talked a little bit about when I'm working with my clients, how I not only crafting those messages so that you're pitching them to the producer effectively, but then running you through the paces so that you're going through the interview process and knowing how to keep conversation over content. Basically, what he was suggesting is that there are times when even the best well-laid plan, the host might decide to take it in another direction. Well, how do I make sure that I am respecting the conversation while getting the content that I need to get in there so ultimately I can drive them to my book, to drive them to my website and do what I want to do? What do I do after the show? Everything from sending a thank you email to sending a physical thank you card. A lot of the things that we do when we're marketing when we're networking with people are the same things you do with a producer in terms of connecting with them. Whenever I follow up with a producer after being on a show, I send them a thank you email. I send them, if I can, I'll get a picture with them It totally goes a long way if you can get a picture with a producer. Why? Because they're never on TV. So when you're like, may I take a picture with you? They're like, why? I'm not the host. I'm like, yeah, but I know, but you put the show together. You're the person who made it all happen. I take a picture with them and send it to them with a quick email. Thanks for allowing me to be on the show. I really had a great time today. By the way, here's another idea for a segment that I had in mind. Doing that simple thing often gets me booked within the next week. It's like, oh, you're a great guest, and we call it kind of done my homework for me. So yeah, it would be great to have you back on to talk about this. And so again, when you're making sure and you're recognizing that it's not about your book, it's about the message and the essence that's in your book, then it gives you more places to play. Because if you're just on there as an author because you have this book, that's one appearance, right? But if you have the essence of the message of the book, that turns into multiple opportunities and appearances. And then some of the things in terms of affecting your on-camera success that you just want to be mindful of is going back to that content, the conversation over content. And it's also making sure that when you're connecting with the viewer, you really want to give value. You want them to walk away from that experience, just like we showed you in that quick clip, that whether they never Google your name, whether they never purchase your book, whether they never go to your website, they walked away from that experience with you feeling like they got some value. When you can do that, that's really how you connect with the viewers. That's how you make the producers happy. That's ultimately how you serve and support yourself as well. So I want to show you, hopefully this video will come up because I just want to show you this quick clip from one of my clients.
Here to offer some sound advice, financial strategist and host of the Chicago-based radio show, Living the American Dream. It's Matthew Zavala.
So she needs to isolate that highest interest credit card. Creditors need to be paid off in remaining balance and goes to the rest of the family. Hey, I'm just so pumped up and so excited. You know, I'm excited about what I'm doing in business. Time to shine in 2009, and the benefits really of working with a media coach and publicist. My coach, Sanyika Calloway Boyce, has really got me prepped up, got me really geared for making TV appearances part of my marketing strategy. And since working with her, I'm gonna give you a personal example. This is my 9th or 10th media appearance, the second one on national TV just now. I just appeared here in New York yesterday, which was Friday, and had a great show. Got to meet a lot of great people. Whitney Casey, Dr. Deborah Brown, some psychologists from the West Coast. Just great connections, great network, and just meeting a different class of people that I'm normally associated with, especially come out of middle-class home and no pedigree, no upbringing in finance or in business. But here sitting in New York, I've had this opportunity by making TV part of my marketing strategy to brand my business and to spread the message of helping people with finance. Since being here in New York, that same day, using Sanyika's coaching opened up another door for me because another producer from Fox Business gave me a call. The last time I was out here, let me preface this a bit, the last time I was out here, someone from the Geraldo Rivera show called me right after the Mike and Juliet show. And just yesterday, I had the opportunity for meeting Geraldo Rivera for the very first time. Now, that same day when I was here yesterday, a producer from Fox Business had given me a call, asked me if I could do an hour-long questions and answers segment for viewers who are frantic about their money, frantic about the economy, what to do with their 401k, what to do with their real estate values, and asked me if I could come on to the show. Obviously, I obliged, since I'm going to be in New York until Sunday. I took the opportunity. I went in there, again, met a different class of people, especially on Fox Business Network, and just extremely pumped, excited about just sharing our knowledge and experience of helping families with the viewers on Fox Business. It was an amazing experience. Went toe-to-toe, shoulder-to-shoulder with some of the top financial experts in the country on Fox Business. Met somebody with Fidelity, met someone here who's had a 20, 30 very successful financial planning practice here in New Jersey. Meeting with people in Dallas via network satellite. Extremely excited. So I just want to let you know, just working with Sanyika has just been an amazing experience for me. She's been able to not only open doors for me, but also open up windows of opportunity. And I was just going over my notes, because everywhere I go, every media appearance I go, this is what I read to prepare myself. Check this out. It's right here. Television Publicity Secrets with Sanyika Calloway Boyce. I'm reading this manual here, and I've got my driver Al there and taking care of me. They sent a car for me in a BMW. Yesterday was an Escalade. Just been treating me like royalty, man. I'm just humbled about this whole experience. Just making me feel really pumped about spreading the message and really honing in my skill in rising to the occasion. Now, in this section, I didn't realize that in her book, check this out, Rise to the Occasion. Right here is yours truly. So I'm excited about her putting so. Hey, Sanyika, just thank you so much for the help that you've been doing me. Here I am in a BMW driving from New York to New York City, just being treated wonderfully by Fox, just being treated wonderfully by every network that I've been on. So I just want to say and edify, just add to the testimony I have, both working with my TV and media coach, Sanyika Calloway Boyce. I'm more prepared. I can rise to the occasion. I can think, instead of thinking show, I just do show. And I just appreciate you, Sanyika, for all that you do and what you're doing to prepare for, obviously, the future of my business and how I'm going to spread the message using not only social media, but also traditional media in radio and TV. So thanks a lot. If you ever consider working with Sanyika Calloway Boyce, check out her website at gettelevisionpublicity.net. Check out her website again at gettelevisionpublicity.net. So use her. I'm a guy that has a small business, a boutique financial planning practice, helping middle class families get their kids to college, helping small business owners stay in business, fight to stay in business, and plan for their retirement and for their financial futures as well. And I feel like I've been just taking leaps and bounds in the 5 months I've been working with her, just taking leaps and bounds. So I just, I couldn't do this. She's taken my learning curve into a power curve, into a success curve. So thank you, Sanyika. I appreciate you so much.
So, thank you. So actually, Matthew is one of my clients, and in fact, you're going to talk to Alicia Dunhams is going to be on one of our panels a little bit later. She's helping him with his book and getting his book out. So he actually is on television and doesn't even have a book yet. So imagine what his business is going to look like when he adding a book to his stable of things as well. So I'd like to support you in how to confidently connect with the camera, whether you want to do television or whether you simply want to do video. All of these are the medium of visual, the visual medium of television and video is powerful. It's huge. If you look at YouTube, if you look at social media sites that have video included, not only do they get more viewership, but they also get more response because television is a powerful thing. Video is a powerful thing. People get a chance to connect with you in a way that they don't connect with you by just hearing you or by just reading. So basically, if you're looking to connect with the camera, if you want to have the type of presence online and offline using the power of video and the visual medium, then I'd like to work with you in doing that. I have 2 opportunities to work with you today that I'd like to share with you, and if you're interested, let me know. The Media Star Strategy Sessions are a group coaching strategy sessions where we're going to go through rapid fire the 5 Media Star strategies that I introduced to you today. The Media Star strategies are really going to give you in-depth information of what you need at each strategy point to ultimately use this marketing to your benefit and use these strategies to your benefit. So that's really what the group coaching sessions are going to be about. 5 75-minute group coaching sessions, not including the question and answers period that we'll have the opportunity to work with you on. Then there's the TV Publicity Secrets System. As you saw, Matthew kind of carries his binder around with him. It really is everything that I've done to get on television as much as I've done. When I created TV Publicity Secrets, it was important for me not to just have not just have audio that was transcribed, but it was important for me to give you the full details. It's a 400+ page manual that lets you know from soup to nuts, here's what it takes, here's what works, here's what doesn't work. I've done it, and I continue to do it, and I'd like to support you in doing that as well. There are also DVDs, CDs, and videos that come with the Media Star strategies and the system so that you can rinse and repeat, rise to the occasion, be a great guest, and target the right shows to pitch. And then I have a connect with the camera strategy session. That's a one-on-one session that I'll be doing with you to really support you, whether it's about being on TV or just getting your message clearer, using it for video. It's how can you connect with the camera confidently so that you can use the CQC formula, the clear, quick, and concise, deliver that message on point, connect with your audience, and ultimately get them to do what it is you'd like them to do. And then that also comes with 2 bonuses. The first one is a critique of your video or TV appearance, so I can really support you in getting even clearer, crisper, and more connected to the audience that you have. So any video that you have or any TV appearance that you'd like me to critique, I'll do that. I'll add that in as a bonus. And then the second bonus is I do have a live workshop called TV Publicity Workshop in the Media Star Experience where I bring you to New York for 3 days and we go behind the scenes of a TV studio. We actually get to meet producers. We have dinner with the producers. You get to build and start a relationship with them and ultimately get on camera. You go to a simulated studio with me and you get to work with me on camera. So not only do you walk away with video, but also the full television experience. You'll actually get $1,000 off of my Media Star treatment and TV publicity workshop today as well. So there are 2 opportunities. You can go with the on-camera success package, which includes all of the bonuses and the group coaching for just $9.97, or you can go with the maximum media exposure package, which is just $1,997 today. Anyone who decides to invest in the packages today and pay in full today, you'll get an additional 25% off, and lunch is on me. So I know we're all about to be hungry. Anyone who decides to invest in the packages today and pay in full today, you're coming to lunch with me because I'd like to start to get to know you and support you in whatever your media aspirations are. So if you'd like to have one of the 2 packages, I'm going to be in the back of the room. You can meet me. I have the forms there. And if you'd like to go to lunch with me, I'd love to go to lunch with you. I hope to see each and every one of you on TV really soon. You got the order down?